Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to go over how my team performed in game week 1, look at some of the plans for game week 2, and then I'm going to try and predict the top 3 point scorers for the upcoming game week. So just before I get into how the team did, I have to say that I did make a few last minute panic changes before the deadline. So they were Robertson to Reece James. I'm using the extra million from that. I upgraded Sanchez to Ramsdale and Dalot to Trippier. And luckily all three of those decisions worked out. Obviously on another day it could have gone the other way because, for example, I think Sanchez only pretty narrowly missed out on a clean sheet. And similarly, Dalot was the one who scored United's goal, but it was actually just fumbled in by their own players. He didn't get anything out of it, obviously, in the end. But yeah, that worked out for me. Net gain of, I'm not sure exactly how many, but a fair few points I got out of that. So just getting on to the team, starting out in defence, we had Ramsdale. He got his clean sheet and Arsenal obviously looked solid. Saliba, I think in particular, looked really good in front of Ramsdale. So they deserved that clean sheet. So I was happy with that one. Trent only got 1 point, no clean sheet obviously, and no attacking returns this time, but I'm not worried at all. They're going to come. He's still a season hold for me. Then we had Walker. He started, obviously, as we all were predicting, and banked that City clean sheet. So he's keeping up with Cancelo for now. But obviously that's not going to carry on forever. I just have to hope that he can cover him up until wildcard time, when we'll probably be looking to get Cancelo in if anyone doesn't have him already. Next we had James, who got 7 points. Somehow he managed to get 2 bonus despite no attacking returns and getting a yellow card. I think Chelsea looked okay, not amazing. I am slightly concerned about them, but they're still investing in loads and loads of players in the market, so who knows? I think they will get better, and obviously I'll continue to watch them. And James is one of those explosive players that can just get a massive haul in any match. Next we had Trippier with 7 points. I think Newcastle looked really good, and he's obviously now got a really good goalie behind him in Pope. Obviously Dubravka was still a good goalie anyway, but I think Pope's probably a step up. I think I will still bench him in game week 3 and 5, which is something I mentioned in the previous video. I think, yeah, Pereira has decent fixtures and he looked pretty good as well against Liverpool. So that's probably a viable thing to do just for those 2 weeks. But other than that, his fixtures look good, so I'm happy to hold on to him. Moving on to the midfield, we had Salah, who got 12 points. So this is just a typical Salah performance where he played okay. It wasn't at his best, but still managed to get 12 points. So that's what you get with Salah. He can get you massive hauls even on his off days. So don't need to talk much about him. Obviously, he's not going anywhere from the team. Next, we had Neto. So he did play the full 90 minutes and he looked dangerous on the eye test. I think the stats don't show he didn't have a huge number of chances, but it's just a single game, so you can't really use stats in for such a short amount of game time. But I think the display was encouraging, and I'm happy to keep him from the good fixtures that Wolves have. I think the next 5 or 6 are still pretty good for Wolves. One thing I'd say we need to monitor though is the transfer window, because Wolves have just bought a new winger. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I think it's Gonzalo Guedes from Valencia. He plays in the same position as Neto. I don't think Neto will... I think he'll still be nailed on in the Wolves team, but having that extra attacker does open up the possibility of Neto leaving to join another club, and he has been linked with a few people. So I don't know if that may not happen, but it's worth keeping an eye on. I think Arsenal have been linked with him among a few other people. Next up we had Bailey. Villa in general just didn't look good in that first game. of all the players, I'd say Bailey looked like he put in the most effort out of the Villa attack, but obviously that wasn't difficult considering how Villa were in general. I think the main positive to take from that game is that he played the full 90 minutes while other players were being subbed off. So hopefully that kind of shows that Gerrard thought he could still make a difference in the game, whereas others he wasn't thinking the same. And obviously it's good for his fitness as well. So I'm thinking he should probably still start against Everton, and I'm happy to give him another week in the team. And I may be going into next week with 2 free transfers. So if necessary, if anything bad happens, we can find a way to move him on. Next up, we have the attack. We have Jesus. I mean, he only got 2 points, but honestly, it doesn't really make that much of a difference that he blanked because his ownership is so high. And I think at that kind of ownership level, he's more of a shield than a sword. That's an interesting concept in FPL. If you haven't heard of swords and shields, something worth looking up. I think he looked really good against Palace. Obviously, in the first half in particular, he caused the defence loads of trouble. And I'm not worried about him. I think he's still going to score plenty of goals. Next, we have Harry Kane. He only got 2 points somehow, despite Spurs scoring 4 goals. So obviously that's pretty frustrating. It won't happen every week. From the highlights, I saw there were a few chances where he was getting into really good positions and he didn't receive the ball. There was one in particular where Son should have passed it to him, but took a shot on himself. So yeah, it's a bit of an annoying one, but again, I'm not too worried about him. Loads of people have sold him already, and his price has already gone down. But I mean, once he starts scoring, his price is going to go back up again, so I'm not too worried about that. It's Chelsea up next, which is obviously a difficult match, but Chelsea haven't been at their best, and Spurs looked really good in that first match. So he's still a hold for me, because the fixtures look really good again after this week. I think the biggest question this week for KANE owners who don't have Haaland is whether or not to make that switch. I think loads have already made that move, which is why the price has dropped and Haaland's price has actually gone up as well. So there's now actually a 0.2 million price difference between them. So really, it's going to take a hit to get him in unless people get cash in the bank. So yeah, in my opinion, if you didn't make that early transfer, or if you don't have that extra cash in the bank, I think it's probably not worth making the transfer for a hit. For me, it never feels right taking a hit for a premium player, specifically a player like Kane, who could easily punish you even with a tough fixture. And I think there probably are going to be goals in that match. But if you're set on captaining Haaland for game week 2, then obviously it may be worthwhile on removing him for a hit. But I'd be inclined to hold at this point. So next up we had Haaland. So obviously I had the 3 premiums. So I managed to get Kane and Haaland in. So I wasn't concerned that above the thing I was talking about before isn't actually a concern for me. Great performance from Haaland. Scored 2 goals. I think he had 5 shots in the box in the match. 4 big chances. 10 penalty box touches and 1.52 expected goals. So all decent stats. Again, it's only one match, so it's not can't read too much into it, but he looked really good. And I think he fits in so well with that Man City team. And that, in particular, that second goal he scored, we're going to see that time and time again this season with De Bruyne or even any of the other Man City players just learning those runs that he makes and finding him. And he's obviously a great finisher. So, yeah, I can see that happening a lot. And again, that last match was against West Ham, which most would say is a pretty difficult match. I'd say they got a bit of luck with Fabianski having to come off injured, but still, I reckon they would have gone on to score at least one, probably still 2, even if Fabianski was there. And the other thing we've seen is that Haaland should be nailed on penalties now, although we already thought that already, but obviously that's confirmed now that he's taken that penalty. And Pep after the match was saying loads of encouraging stuff about him. The only other thing I'd say about him is that he was subbed early. I think it was around 80 minutes, which is I think that's a good thing, because obviously that means that Pep wants him to be starting the next game, so I haven't got any worries about him being benched in the next match. And finally, just looking at the bench, obviously I had Ward first bench option, because I've got Ramsdale now rather than Sanchez. I'm not going to be looking to play Ward anytime. He's just there in case Ramsdale's injured or something. Pereira, I think, looked really good. I think he's going to be the best 4.5 million midfielder, but De Silva actually came on and scored in the match in the Brentford game. So I could see him starting soon. But the only thing is Brentford have signed Damsgaard, I think his name is. So we're going to have to see where he fits into the team and whether De Silva can break in. But it seems a lot of people are already signing him, so I'm happy to already have him in the squad in case he does nail down a starting spot. So yeah, the total score for this week was 72 points. I'm really happy with that as a first score for the first game week. That gives me an overall rank of just over 1 million. But it's pretty irrelevant at this stage of the season because everyone's so close together. I think sort of 1 or 2 points and I would be in the top million. And even sort of the top 10k is only sort of 10-20 points away. So yeah, there's nothing at this stage. Team value is still exactly 100 million because obviously KANE went down and HAALAND went up by 0.1. So yeah, no change there. So yeah, that's it for the team review. As I said, I'm pretty happy with the way it went, and hopefully we can kick on and get another good score next week. So looking at the Game Week 2 team selection, I'm not going to spend too long going through it because I'm actually thinking I'm going to go with the same team as before. I haven't made any early transfers, and there's nothing really standing out that I want to do this game week. I'm thinking that going into Game Week 3 with 2 free transfers is going to be really beneficial. So obviously we're starting off with Ramsdale in goal at home against Leicester. I think Leicester might score. So I'm just hoping for a few save points, but my bench option is Ward, who's away against, obviously same fixture, away against Arsenal. And I think Ramsdale's the better option, better chance of a clean sheet, and hopefully we'll get a few save points as well. We've got Trent home against Palace. Hopefully Liverpool can get their first clean sheet and he could get a few attacking returns. Walker at home against Bournemouth. Happy with that one. Then we've got Reece James at home against Tottenham. I don't see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet, so I'm going to be relying on him for attacking returns in that game. Some people have suggested benching James and playing Pereira instead, but I just couldn't do that because James is just a ridiculously explosive player. He could come away with 1 or 2 goals in a game, and then you'd just be looking feeling like an idiot playing Pereira, who could easily get a 1 or 2 pointer against Wolves. Well, probably not a 1 pointer, but yeah. Next we have Trippier away against Brighton. Again, I think that's a decent fixture. Newcastle could keep a clean sheet there, and obviously the reason I brought him in is because he's on so many set pieces. So there's always the chance of assists with him. Next we've got Bailey. I think I'll probably give him this game, watch it quite closely, see what Gerrard says after the match, and then assess. He may be a player that goes in Game Week 3, in my Game Week 3 transfers, but we'll have to see how it goes. I'm pretty sure he's going to start the next one, so I'm not too worried about this game week. Then we've got Salah. Again, not going to say too much like Trent. He's one of my season keepers. He's always be in the team. The question is just whether or not to captain him, which we'll get onto in a minute. Next, we've got Neto. I think, as I said, he looked pretty good in the last game. Didn't have too many chances, but I think he will get them. And at home against Fulham is a really good fixture, so again, I'm not worried about that one, and planning to keep him at least for the first sort of 5-6 game weeks. Then we got Kane away against Chelsea. Loads of people have sold him, so hopefully he can bang in a few goals and reward those people that have managed to keep him. I think it's unlikely that he's going to get a massive score. Chelsea are a good defence, but he could always come away with a goal, and Kane loves a London derby. Then we got Jesus at home against Leicester. I think he's going to be pretty good. I think he could score a couple of goals in that game. Leicester's defence isn't great, and I fancy him to get off the mark against them. And then finally we got Haaland, who, as you can see, has got the captain's armband against him at home against Bournemouth. He looked, as I said before, he looked amazing in that first game, almost certain to start against Bournemouth. But I mean, never say never. Pep could do anything, but I can't see him being benched. And I'll get on to the Salah versus Haaland debate in a sec. In terms of captaincy, I think for everyone, for everyone who owns them, it's between Salah and Haaland this week. I definitely think Salah could do really well against Palace, and I expect him to, even though it's a pretty tough fixture. So for people that can't afford Haaland, I think Salah is still a solid captaincy option. But for me, after Haaland's performance in game week 1 and the fact that he was subbed early, I think it's just too good an opportunity to pass up at home against Bournemouth. And I think Bournemouth did look better than I expected against Villa, but City are just going to have way too much for them. So I can see 3 or 4 goals, and the chances are Haaland's going to be involved unless he does a Harry Kane impression and manages to avoid getting any points. That's it for the team. So I just wanted to have a bit of fun and decide. I'll try and predict the top 3 point scorers for this week. Something I'm going to try and do each week, and then we'll see how close I manage to get. I'm going to try and be a little bit different and not just pick Salah, Haaland, Son every week. So the first person I've picked for points this week is Foden. This could obviously easily have been Haaland, but I think Foden looked really good at the weekend. And as we saw last season, the season before, he has the capacity to pop up with these sort of mega hauls at any time. He played on the right wing in that game, and I think looking at the stats, Bournemouth conceded more crosses from the right than any other team in game week 1. So obviously that could play into his hands. And I think he should start that game again. Whether it's on the right or the left, I'm not sure, but presumably it'll be on the right again. I think he could do really well. Next pick is Darwin. I feel like after coming on in the Community Shield and coming on in that first game and doing really well in both of those and posting really good numbers and looking really good, he has a really good chance of starting this next match. As I said, he's posted great numbers anytime he's been on the pitch, and managed to get a goal each time he's come on. And I could see more goals for him this weekend. And I think that if he does start and score again, a lot of people are going to start trying to bring him in. It'll be difficult for some people because most people have 3 Liverpool already. Luckily, I don't at the moment. So if I do want to get him in, I have got some quite easy routes to that because I've got sort of the three big starters up front. I think he's an interesting one. He's going to do pretty well this weekend. And last up we have Jesus. So as I mentioned before, he looked really good against Palace, and I sort of fancy him to score his first Arsenal goals at the weekend against Leicester, who they don't look great defensively. That's it. That's my 3 picks. Next week when I do another video, I'll have a look at these choices and see how they actually did and see if I look like an idiot or not. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, obviously give it a like and subscribe, then I'll know it's worthwhile to keep making these. Cheers. Thanks for watching.